Well, okay. So welcome everyone today to the our session on self-care in the workplace. We're really excited to have you here today, and we want to thank you for joining us. Today, I'm here. My name is Peggy Swarbrick, and I'm joined by my colleague Michelle. We're here to really share with you how to implement a provider wellness program at your work. And this session today will really hopefully help. You've received some materials that will really help you walk through this guide that we've put together that will really help think about how you can put a wellness program in your setting. Some of you may have attended some of our previous sessions. You're going to really learn about, get a how-to overview of what it is, how to implement this program, why it's important, who can benefit, when and where you may be able to offer it, and just real details about how we're going to be available to coach you in doing this program. So thank you for joining us today. Michelle, do you want to say a few thoughts for the group today?
Oh, welcome everyone. It's so wonderful to be with you today.
Excellent. And I'll take just a moment here. Thank you, Peggy and Michelle, for being with us. My name's Ann Murphy, and I'm the co-director of the Northeast and Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. I'll take just a moment to provide some introductory remarks, and then I'll turn it back over to Dr. Swarbrick and Dr. Zechner. The Northeast and Caribbean MHTTC is funded by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. We receive funding to provide training and technical assistance to enhance the capacity of the behavioral health workforce to deliver evidence-based and promising practices to individuals with mental health conditions, and also to train other related workforces to provide support to those living with mental health conditions. We also receive, their supplemental funding to support K through 12 educators and school staff to address student mental health, and also to support healthcare providers, behavioral healthcare providers, and educators in wellness and self-care activities. And it's as part of that supplement that we offer this session today. If you are interested in learning more about our services, resources, and activities, we encourage you to subscribe to receive our mailings at the bit.ly link included here. I'll also paste this into the chat in just a moment so you can have easy access to it. I also want to let you know that at the conclusion of this session, I will post a link in the chat to have you complete a brief survey. Completing the survey is part of how our funder knows that you are participating in our activities. So it's really important for us that you take just a few minutes to complete those surveys. We also use that information to help inform our activities going forward. So if you'd be willing to take that survey, we'd appreciate it. We'll also send you the link to the survey in a follow-up email that you'll receive in the next day or so. We are recording this session, and the recording will be posted on our webinar within the next week so that you can have access to it there, and feel free to share it with any of your colleagues. I do have to share just a brief disclaimer that this presentation was prepared for the Northeast and Caribbean MHTTC under a cooperative agreement with SAMHSA. All material appearing here in this presentation, except that taken directly from copyrighted sources, is in the public domain and may be reproduced or copied without permission from SAMHSA or the authors. We do appreciate citation. You cannot reproduce any of this material at a fee. The material needs to be available in the public domain at no cost. At the time of this presentation, Tom Coterie is the Acting Assistant Secretary for the Mental Health and Substance Use at SAMHSA. And the opinions expressed herein are the views of the speakers and do not reflect the official position of DHHS or SAMHSA. And Peggy, I think we're hearing just a little bit of feedback.
Yep. I'm going to get off of it because I think I was able to get back on.
Great.
Hold on a minute. I apologize.
No problem.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Sorry about this. Okay, great. So thank you very much for joining us, and we're really ready to start with you today. I'm sorry for these technical difficulties. And again, language is really important, the language we use. But in terms of any of the language that we're trying to use and we use in our work is so important for our self-care and our wellness. So again, Michelle and I have we're here today to really bring you this program and thinking about a little bit about us on the next slide. You can see where we're affiliated with, and we can talk a little bit more about that. And if for more questions, we'll work together in the center here at Rutgers University. And in terms of the next slide, the learning objectives for today, again, is really what we want to do is try to help you learn how to facilitate a self-care and simple daily practices to really increase our overall wellness. That's a big piece of this program. Look at strategies. These strategies that we're going to share with you are very simple. They've been used a lot in a lot of different contexts, particularly for people in the kind of work that you do, that really can help prevent burnout and that compassion fatigue, because so many of you do work that help others, can really help be focused on ourselves and really think about at the end of this a program you can implement for yourself. So we're really going to talk about the what about the self-care, why it's important, who can benefit, and then really the nuts and bolts of this resource that we've put together and thinking about how to do it and when and where to offer it. So we're going to start out because, we're under a lot of stress right now with all this. Michelle's going to start us off with just a little stretch to get us warmed up before we really moved into what is self-care and how can you create a program for yourself and others.
So we thought we would start off with just a very quick self-care stretch break. And if you attended any of our previous sessions, you'll know that we're going to take a breath. We're going to center ourselves and we're just going to lift our arms up over our head and go down. And then as we inhale, lift our arms up and go down. And maybe do that one other time, breathing and moving your arms up and over. Thank you so much for taking a quick self-care stretch break with me.
Yeah, so really important in terms of just take that stretch, get going, and we're going to move into what is really self-care, the idea of taking care of yourself. The self-care, what we see are those things, if you can, being on the next slide, you can think about all those different things you do on a day-to-day basis, those different habits, routines, those specific things you do to just really take care of yourself, focus on ourselves. Again, the rain, having a rain umbrella for the rain, like doing those things to protect us when we might have something that happens. Rain is nice to have, but having our umbrellas there. So what are the things we do? What are our umbrellas that we do? What are the things we do? Do we take a nap? Do we take a rest? Do we stop and have that sip of coffee or tea or whatever that thing is we need to do to kind of really help pay attention to our whole own needs? And when we think about self-care and self-care in the workplace, in the next slide, you're going to see we've put together some simple strategies that are really been used a lot for people doing the work. Things about the pausing, the breathing, focusing on nourishing ourselves, moving and sleep. These are a basic part of our daily habits and routines, things we can do on a day-to-day basis. When we think about, we have the demands of our jobs, the challenges that happen in the workplace, outside of the work. There's a lot of stuff we don't have control over, and often we react automatically, and that stress starts to build up. We want to boil down for you these strategies that can really be thought about doing simply in your work, these self-care strategies, things you can do. And we're going to go into much more detail about each of these, pausing and breathing, nourishing, move, and sleep, and thinking about mindfully how you can think about these things for yourself, develop some practices and practices for others. This whole program we're focusing on around self-care for the workplace, on the next slide we'll show you, are based on a resource that we have developed that's called a professional self-care guide. And it really focuses on these 5 areas very simply. And it goes over these very simple things we do on a day-to-day basis that we can become much more mindful of doing and build them into our habits and routines. We're probably doing many of these things already, but it's becoming much more mindful about them and organizing them in a way that can help us to practice them on a more regular basis to manage the inevitable crisis and/or prevent. If we move forward to the next slide, you're going to see on the slide where a resource you can go to that can, the guide we're going to go over that we've created for you is a subset of things from this professional caregiver guide that you can actually, again, Anne made a point of it, it's downloadable, it's on the website, it's resources you can go to. So we have taken the material in this guide and boiled it down for this work that we'll be sharing here now that can hopefully be something you can bring into your workplace. So you can go up on, that will be something we will reference over time. And when you get, you should have gotten the guide or you'll go back, this will be your reference point to go to this website. So Michelle is going to go in a little bit more into why it's important, and then we're going to move into some of the nuts and bolts.
Thanks, Peggy. So on the next slide, we ask ourselves, why is self-care important? And I think that all of us here, and I recognize some of the names, all of us provide a support and assistance to others in some way, whether we're teachers or professionals in healthcare or mental health care. We provide a really important service to other people. And that really attends to the needs of other people. So it means that we need to be a little bit at our best and our freshest in order to teach, in order to provide healthcare, in order to provide care in some way. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but I know it happens for me. I don't pay enough attention to myself. And I know that others have said that they don't always pay enough attention to their self-care, which can lead to stress, life imbalance, burnout, compassion fatigue, and ultimately worsened outcomes for the people that we're trying to help. We have to acknowledge the stress and strain of the pandemic has really impacted these challenges of helping others in some way that existed before the pandemic. So we really need to get into the habit of focusing on ourselves with these simple practices that can go a long way. And we're offering a structure that might be helpful in your workplace. Doing them can be so helpful, and sharing them with others to create a wellness culture can be very rewarding. Oh, great. Someone's here from Oregon. That's wonderful. And I know hello from our other friends as well. So who can benefit from these types of services of self-care? The next slide. And that can really be every line. So everyone from administrators, direct service providers, teachers' aides, students, clients or patients, however you're referring to the people that you support, everyone can benefit from thinking a little bit more about self-care and taking a breath and doing the pause and some of the other elements that we're talking about. It's just a reminder, a quick reminder that we need to pause and not react to what's going on around us. So it's really great because we know that you all are doing fantastic work, and this is some tools that can give you a little more strength and support during challenging times. Next slide, please. So we hope that you've all attended some or all of the previous sessions. I don't know if anyone can raise their hand if that feature is available in the webinar or not, but if you were attending any of the other sessions, could you raise your hand or enter in chat that you were able to? If not, that's perfectly fine, because we are actually going to go over very briefly what these core components are. Okay, so someone attended one. Thank you so much for letting us know. Okay. Peggy, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, no, if you did join them, or if you didn't, like Michelle said, it will be okay because we will be going over these. But if you did, these were sessions we did, and you'll see they were just very short sessions and really helpful for a lot of people.
And we encourage you actually to check them out on the MHTTC website. They're 30 minutes and they're very experiential. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Ramona says she attended all of them. Okay. So there are 5 practices: pause, breathe, move, which we started off with today because we thought lunchtime, why not have a little move? Um, Nourish and sleep. So all of these topics are things that we can all relate to. We're going to do just a quick overview of each of them and then talk about how you could design a program for your work setting that might help your colleagues or the people that you support. Next slide, please. And when we talk about self-care, we're really talking about that regular practice of pausing and being aware in the moment. Just stop. I heard a great acronym of stop, but I like pause better because pause sends very intentional and gentle. Pausing really means, oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah, pausing, you can really just take that time. And again, I've had some challenges today getting on. I was watching. I paused, I breathe. You just take that time to just kind of focus yourself, and then it helps you to okay, what's my problem solving that I'm going to do? But you just take that, even a second or a short amount of time, that you can really learn how to take your time, focus, and really become much more aware of the situation. Then it also helps you with your response. And it often, what many times find, it breaks that cycle sometimes where we get into a frustration. So the pausing can just be so, so, so important. So you really kind of think about that, and just every once in a while to try to do that for yourself. And
Thank you, Peg. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Next slide, please. Okay. And so to pause, you simply stop. Stop what you're doing, pause, and pause what you're thinking, or stop what you're thinking. Stop before you react to the situation. You know, count to 3, take a breath, check in with how you're feeling in your body. Concentrate on your senses. Notice what you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch. Even notice your feelings. Are you angry, frustrated, sad? Do you feel guilty or helpless? And you don't have to do anything with those feelings. The pause is really just saying, oh, hello, there's that feeling of frustration or overwhelm at the technical issue, or whatever the challenge may be. So later we're going to try a pause together, but that's an overview of pause. If we could go to the next slide, please. And someone, Louis says, for me, pause means to slow down. I like that. Yeah. And pausing, the practice will help you gradually become more aware of a space where you can choose how to focus your attention, leading to less distress and a greater sense of ease and well-being right now. So professionals who help others, educators and health professionals, mental health professionals who pause and take the time to be more aware, they say it actually improves their relationships with the people they support and their coworkers and themselves as well. The next self-care, when you use a pause, you can use it throughout the day. It doesn't take much time. It can literally be a breath or 3 breaths. You could do it between tasks, when you get out of your car, when you're moving from one task to another, or any time in the morning, afternoon, or evening. So we really encourage the use of pause because it's very helpful in a lot of the chaos and stress that we may be feeling in the moment. Next slide, please. And then the next component of the program is breathing with awareness. Your mind influences your breath, and the breath influences your mind. And you probably have noticed that. I noticed that for me, when I start to stress out, my breathing gets more shallow. And we probably tell people that we help. You need to take a breath. But it's hard for us maybe to remember. It's hard for me, certainly, and it may be hard for others. So by learning to control your breath, you can influence your feelings and relax your body. This is especially important during difficult situations, crisis, or chaos. So, paying attention to your breath can help you feel calmer, less stressed, and relaxed more. Next slide, please. Breathing really changes your state of mind. The breath responds to the mind. The mind also responds to the breath. So breathe focuses on controlling your breath, and we lead people through a very simple breathing exercise to help you feel more relaxed and calm. And it's especially helpful in difficult situations. Next slide, please. The next practice is really also quite important, and it's nourish. And when we talk about nourish, we mean the food that you eat, but also what are you putting in your brain? Nourishing your body with good foods and nourishing your mind with good thoughts and positive people. Next slide, please. So, it's wonderful to nourish your body. Nourishing your body means first that you notice when you're hungry or thirsty and let yourself take that lunch break, or at least let yourself go get your bottle of water if you need it. And when you're ready to eat, take a pause. Take time to notice your surroundings and check in with your emotions. Breathe, stretch your neck or shoulders, think a positive thought. And if you're eating with other people, share those positive thoughts with them. Next slide, please. And I want to share a moment about nourishing your mind. Um, Thinking about those thoughts and messages that help you to feel strong and notice what's good for you in this moment. And I think I shared previously in another session that I used to have breakfast, listen to the news, and it really started my day out really badly. So now when I'm stressed out, I take a pause and I say, do I really need to listen to the news this morning? That might not nourish my mind in this moment. It's really easy to notice what's going wrong for you, for the people that you support, or for your colleagues or coworkers. But it's helpful to take a moment to focus on what's going well and what you're grateful for, or what strengths you might see in your coworkers, your students, your patients, the people that you're around. This kind of takes us into a shifting perspective, and it's a little bit of work, but it has a huge payoff. Those little attention to gratitude can really, really support your thinking and can support your attitude, and also give you more energy. Next slide, please. Uh, so the next is sleep. Sleep care is really important, and the benefits of sleep and using the pause, breathe, and move, as well as nourish, as it connects to sleep. I mean, I've started to do some breathing techniques as I fall asleep. I think those are really helpful. And thinking about nourishing, a habit of mine used to be sitting and worrying about what's going to happen the next day. And maybe you have a habit like that as well, that doesn't help with sleep or screen time, things like that. That makes it harder to fall asleep. Um, so just attending to sleep and nourishing and getting enough movement in order to sort of stretch your legs each day can help you sleep as well. So this was just a short summary of the self-care components. Peggy's going to tell us a little bit about the how-to manual that we just created to use these wonderful techniques in your workplace with others.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. And thanks. I noticed in the chat, there's some people talking about pausing and meaning slowing down, working with a dietitian to have a healthy lifestyle. So these practices, these simple practices can, land in different ways for many of us, and often they lead to other things for people. So we're really good to hear. But now what we'd love to do is really what we've done was we've taken the material from on these different practices and organized into a manual that you should have received, a facilitator manual for self-care in the workplace. And we're going to go over this, how this manual is really a how-to for you. It's really, I kind of see it's the nuts and bolts of you thinking about, okay, I really like these ideas. I want to practice them myself. But let me think about how I can share them with others, whether it's other colleagues or maybe people you support in your work, or caregivers, people in your settings that you work. How can I share this with others? So we'll move into the how. We want to give you a little bit about the organization of the program, and then also a little bit about the nuts and bolts, and then how we'd be available to help you organize this if you're interested in implementing in your program. The next slide gives you a little bit of a table of contents overview of really how the program is organized in this short little manual of how to use it. And also just kind of, and we're going to walk through these different components about how do you start to get it, format the settings, how would you facilitate a session, how do you involve people, and some of the tasks. And then what it really does nicely, it lays out, for example, if you want to do 20 or 30-minute sessions with, just like some of you had participated, how you would structure those sessions yourself. So we really scripted it out for you, and you can adjust the time, but we encourage you to practice early on with the 20 to 30 minutes, but it really, really lays it out very nicely for you. So for each of the sessions, and you'll see on the next slide, in the session outline we've provided for each of those, there's an overview of the session, the objectives you would share. It maps out for you what kind of materials you might need, and then some tips for perhaps facilitating the session. We've, and you'll see this a little later in our presentation, you can do this, you can actually implement this on a virtual format like this with colleagues, with a WebEx or Zoom or some of these different kind of technologies, or in person with colleagues, whether it's during huddle times or in lunch break sessions you have, whatever it is, but it gives you that script on what do you need to do it, how do you structure it, and how you might create, how the learning objectives are all really scripted out for you. And it really walks you through how to do this session. Say if you wanted to do the pause session, it maps it out for you for the 20 minutes, the breathe, each of the 5 components. It's all laid out really nicely in this facilitator manual that we've provided. When you think about the next slide, it will tell you just for the format, which I mentioned, we, give you a timing of it. It will give you the, the things you might say in the introduction or how you would do the engagement in the introduction piece to kind of, share what the objectives are, giving that overview of it. And it gives you, get us on the same page, highlight what the purpose is. And then it maps out the activities you will do, the activities perhaps around the pausing, the activities around the breathing, the activities around the moving. It will map those out. And then again, it will highlight a way to summarize it and discuss it first with the participants. And then how do you summarize it for people to kind of help people to see about what the takeaways are in the session. We also, if you wanted to do it a little longer, we have options as you get practice with it. To practice doing it, we encourage you to go to this website where you can see some examples of the pause, breathe, and move sections examples, as well as you could use that perhaps in a longer version if you wanted to have a little longer version with people in the session. So this really maps it out, the session overview of how you would format the session. We also wanted to, Michelle, did you want to highlight anything about the formatting details that are in the manual?
Not at this time, no. I think you've really covered it, Peg.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Yeah, so it's really scripted. It's a script. And then as you practice it, that's the reason we scripted it so much, is for people to have the comfort and confidence to do it. If you're more seasoned, you might be able to start to do it in your own way and stuff. But again, many people find just having the script and the outline and the timing is very helpful for them. So the other piece that's really helpful in doing this, especially the nature of this, is involving people. So in the outline, it really gives you some good suggestions about how to convey the messages, convey the points, but then involve the participants in the practices and the discussion, really helping them to kind of take the information, digest it, share it back with each other. And again, this gives you these guidelines, whether you're live, the questions you can ask and answer, that if you're in this kind of virtual format using chat or depending on the size of your group, you can open up have the open dialogue with each other. And again, that's going to depend on how many sessions you have, how many people you have in the sessions. But this is, again, also, we've given you some ideas but many of you with facilitation skills may come up with other interesting ideas about how to involve people. And there's just as good involvement strategies in person or in this virtual format. The next piece we'll highlight in the manual. It outlines for you just what are the tasks. So, doing this takes some tasks to do, the tasks of getting the materials that you need to organize, which was, again, outlined in that session outline. What are the different tasks you need to do to prepare yourself? If you're planning for the remote delivery, there's certain things you need to do, and have a backup plan. Like today, what happened with me. I mean, really, you just never know, but it's possible to make it happen even when your first plan didn't work. You have a backup plan, especially with the remote delivery, and making sure, maybe that you do have the option of having the, phone call in and things like that. The room preparation, if it is in person, there's some strategies around that, and also things around tailoring the program for different participants, different, people that you might, you can, and a thing about tailoring, wanted to know, is, you have to, depending on your setting, you got to think, okay, what is the timing of the day? What's the best delivery? Are you able to do these 30 minutes over the course of a couple of weeks? Do you do a longer session together with people? You can really get feedback from, your coworkers or the people you're thinking that might be interested to be able to best tailor it. And again, when we highlight the 3 sessions that we'll have to do some coaching and technical assistance with you, these are some of the elements that we can highlight with you to how to best tailor this to meet your setting. These are the kind of things we can be able to help you to figure out how to do in those, in those sessions. So there's a lot of preparation that happens, but the manual really maps it out quite nicely, and hopefully you'll participate in the TA sessions with us to really help you to really prepare this well. The next piece, which we did have it in the manual, again, was we created these checklists for you, and we actually put the checklist as an online checklist versus in-person checklist. So if you take a look at the next slide, we'll highlight the online delivery checklist can really outline all the things you need to do, as I mentioned, before the session, really maps all those different things out, again, of scheduling it and recruiting and getting people to remember to come, just like happened for you today to get here. What are the things you have to do for that if you are going to be doing this with people in your setting and getting people to know where the Zoom link is? Spending that time practicing doing it by reviewing the material, the timing is often a tricky piece for some, but maybe having the clock available for you there. And then just really being able to, again, to really do this well is downloading these guides and handouts and having them really ready-handed, printed out there. If you decide you're going to do any supplemental strategies for it, work those out and practice them in advance, especially if you're doing it on a virtual delivery, and also really test it out if you can. Again, always important to do. And again, the arriving early really helps a lot. Then the checklist for the things that you might need to do. Again, this is something you might think about. I'm going to be the facilitator, but look, we have 3 of us, Michelle, we have Anna, myself, we're all here together. And again, getting the support for one another to help one another. So maybe you do this, but make sure you have, whether it's some kind of either other colleague to work with or some kind of an administrative support to do that, especially in the virtual kind of formatting. And then again, just some other things to be thinking about as you deliver this session. It really maps all these things out and gives you just a little checklist that you can have next to you as you're doing that. And then again, afterwards, you could be noting how it worked and keep your own notes to maybe tweak the manual a little bit on lessons you learned, that things that went really well, but also maybe things you might have to adapt in kind of others, depending if something doesn't seem to work well. So that's the online checklist. And then you'll notice on the next slide, the in-person checklist. will, it should be there, doesn't seem it's there, but you'll have it in your book. The in-person checklist, facilitator checklist, has things that you want to be thinking about the in-person that might a little bit different. Again, the space that you'll need to think about, the same kind of things about scheduling people is important, but there's other different things that might be different when you're doing a in-person versus an online piece. Michelle, did you want to highlight anything about the in-person versus the checklist, the value of the checklist before you go into the when and
Yeah,
where?
I did actually. I was also thinking in this time of COVID and the pandemic, that's also going to be something in person that you'll need to think about if you're gathering in staff meetings, and like particularly the movement delivery. That is something where you're going to want a little extra space. I mean, I don't know if you could see, but I had my arm up and over my head, and so you need sort of that much space, an arm, arm's length on either side and maybe more. And then if someone is wearing masks, how will you consider using the breathe in person? And could you do it outside? Like, what kinds of locations do you have on your at your work site that would be really conducive? I know some workplaces have some lovely benches outside, or is there sort of a cushion or somewhere that's a more relaxed and comfortable place to sit at work, or a break room or something, as Peggy mentioned?
Yeah, so thanks, Michelle. Yeah, thinking about those things is just so important. Again, and it gets to the when and where to offer. It really fits nicely with that. And as we're going along, somebody wrote extremely useful. I think that and if we have questions as you're going along, please just pop them in. And as Michelle's going to go on to the when and where to offer, but feel free to pop them in, and we will have time for the questions and comments as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the where to when, I mean, I think that's also tailored to your work culture and the type of service that you provide and the location. Um, if you want to offer it in, as Peggy was saying, on site, definitely, it might fit with some existing programs that you have. I know some programs have a trauma informed committee, some programs have a staff wellness committee. Some, at schools may have like self-help or work support groups for teachers. So it's also, I think, building in the existing structures where it might fit. Certainly, we encourage everyone who's attending to offer the self-care program at your work site. And for some folks, it may fit, it may dovetail very nicely with your existing services or supports to staff. In other programs, it may be a new concept or a new idea to offer something like this. What I really love about, I've been doing this work with Peggy for a year or two, and I really love the self-care components because they're so easy. You don't need any special equipment, particularly. You need the manual to help you guide you through it, but you don't need treadmills. You don't need anything fancy. It really can be where you are and what you have. And also, as Peggy was mentioning, tailoring, thinking about who you're helping in your setting. If you've got patients with healthcare problems, making sure that that becomes part of the discussion in the self-care program, and sort of like examples of when to take a pause. I teach online classes, and I teach in person sometimes, and I think, I know when I need to take a pause, and that might be the kind of discussion that you would want to have with other folks, is when exactly would you want to take a pause? What would make sense? And when to offer it? I mean, it could be asynchronous, it could be online, it could be, Anne, could you go to the next slide, please? It could even be a hybrid model where you've got some people on location and some people remote. We've done some of that work. It could be completely online. Really, just thinking about the time that you have, and ranging it to it. And the important thing I think about this material and the program implementation manual is it's very experiential. So this is not about lectures at all. It's really about encouraging staff and coworkers to sort of practice good self-care, even when it's challenging, and especially when it's challenging, because breathing is something we all should be doing. I mean, we all are doing, and I'm laughing because I'm thinking, I can't tell you how many times I've worked with people living with mental health conditions, and I've talked about breathing, how important it is, and yet I struggle with it, and I know a lot of my colleagues who are mental health professionals struggle with it. So I think as professionals, we need to practice what we preach a little bit. So I'm laughing and being a little bit chagrined because I think that that's not something that we're all very good at. So any thoughts where you might, when and where you might offer a self-care program? If you want to just drop that in chat, um, where you think it might fit in your particular
Yeah,
program.
when would you, who would you benefit? When would you do it? We'd love to hear in the chat to start to get a sense of your interest in doing this, or your sense of doing this in your settings. Where and when, and maybe who would benefit.
And it may vary based on the type of location that you have and the resources that you have. And as Peggy mentioned, you do want to have the buy-in or support of administration in some way. It may be something from HR. It may be something from a union. It may be, a lot of, different elements may be supports to a program like this.
So people said they're going to clients and colleagues, great, groups
Mm.
and self-care yeah. Yeah, your case managers first and then clients. Like, yeah, get it to staff, focusing on the staff. We really, again, going back to the original goal of the thing of the build and enhance our ability to not have compassion fatigue, try to prevent that burnout. A big piece of the outcome, this could help the case manager, so then they can start working with other people later. Somebody said they think that they would need to get the feedback. A big part of it is gathering that feedback, and that's some of what we'll highlight in the technical assistance coaching sessions, is about how to go about that process of getting the feedback so you can decide where it will best land and best be receptive. People will be receptive to it. Doing it in weekly team meetings, virtually, again and again at the beginning of a meeting to set the intention. Wonderful idea, because you could even do these in shorter components as well.
And even messaging, right, Peggy? I mean, you could consider a communication plan to sort of, reminders at once, sort of have a whole implementation within your organization as well.
So we had a couple of you have highlighted it. For those of you who are not sure, we'd like to see in the chat, or haven't really thought through where and how and who might benefit or whatever. We'd love to hear in the chat from everyone. Just let us know in terms of the manual, if you have either seen it or you heard what we've talked about. What about it seems to be something that might be of interest to you? What attracts you to this, this structure and the topics of, the pause, breathe, move, nourish, and sleep? What about any of the structure of this or the topics would be of interest to you? We'd like to see that, if those of you want to put that into the chat.
Got some thinking going on, I could tell.
Is any of the topics more, the pause, the breathe, the move, the nourish, or the sleep, any of these topics seem of interest to you and or your colleagues? Yeah, I think you're right. Self-care that's what happens is people get overwhelmed with the idea of self-care, that it's so complicated, and the idea that this is really simple. It's so simple. Is so. Thank you for highlighting that. Is so important to remember. And again, that's what we want to do. Is we want to reinforce these simplistic ways of really helping people to remind themselves of taking care of themselves. Really important, again, and not making it so complicated. And that's why we've really tried to unpack this in a very simple kind of way. Also, what you were, like was been said here too, is that, as professionals, many times, like Michelle said that a couple times, again, we don't always focus in ourselves, that we try to do it ourselves, and it's hard. Michelle's highlighted that a little bit, right, Michelle? That it's like so hard sometimes. We don't always put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, or think about that, or
Yeah, I don't, and I think maybe it's just because we think we have that superhero cape because we're professionals and we should not need these simple things like breathing and pausing and nourishing our minds, but we do actually. We need it a lot, and we're much more effective as helpers and professionals and people in general if we take a few minutes to just simply just breathe and pause and nourish and move our bodies, all of those things. um, Maybe next slide. What do you think, Peg?
Yeah. Okay. And I'd like that. JD said the nourishing the mind piece, very, very important to highlight that piece. Yeah. So we want to just remind you that, again, we hope you'll look at the facilitator manual and take a look at that. You'll also want to go and get this other resource that's here downloadable, the professional guide and the material that, if you feel a little overwhelmed with it or stuff, just go look at the guides. Maybe looking at the video, you can start to see, okay, this is something, a resource that you could use to really implement this simple program. So this will definitely be the guides that you want to really go to be able to use this and take a look at it and think about, okay, is this something I want to do, or I want to practice, or maybe even just practicing with like one or two people in your setting. You just never know. And again, depending on, we're going to highlight again where the facilitation sessions that we will have, which you can go to the next slide. We will want to welcome you to join us on these 3 dates. We encourage you can come. Would ideally come to all of them, because we really could coach you through the process so you can get ready to implement your program. But if you can't come to all, that's fine, because what we're going to go over is really the steps of how to help you really plan this for yourself. We have a process to help you plan, to think about through who could benefit, think about where and how, think about the kind of support that you might need to actually be able to implement this kind of a program in your setting, and get that support over the course of these 3 sessions to be able to help you really think about implementing this pause, breathe, move, sleep, self-care program in your workplace. So this will be the time that we would be available to do that for you and answer questions and try to help. You want to say anything else about the sessions, Michelle, or we can maybe get the poll?
So there was a question: are these Eastern Standard Times? Yes, they are. It is Eastern Standard Time. And as Anne, someone asked, is there a link? And Anne said you will receive a registration link to join these technical assistance sessions. And I really encourage you to consider joining us if you can, because it's really lovely to have people from different settings talking about their opportunities, their challenges, the things that they're doing for self-care at their organization. And I think that we can learn from each other so much. And also, Peggy is an amazing resource. And, I've done a little bit of of this kind of work too. So it's I think it will be nice, and I'm thinking, Peggy, that we'll also include a little bit of self-care in each session
Oh, yes.
so that we have some
Definitely.
experience for
Yes.
as a reminder for ourselves. Because if we're going to be champions and encouraging others to practice self-care, we need to talk. We need to walk the walk and talk the talk, and take a breath and pause and nourish ourselves and address our sleep as we need. So it should be, sort of a nice group to think about how you would or could get the support you need and try it out. As someone also mentioned, I just want to get back to someone mentioned their faith community as a place that they might try some
Mm-hmm.
of these things
Mm-hmm.
out. And really anything. As someone else mentioned their clients or patients,
Mm-hmm.
I think those, it's definitely. Oh gosh, Anne, we're seeing something funny there. Okay. Yes. So I think it would be great to have you if you can, and as Peggy said, not necessarily every time, but at least if you could make the intention to come, I think you might find some benefit of it. Are there any questions about this? Oh, we're going to get to the poll. Sorry, Anne,
Yeah.
could you start the poll? Okay. So
I think we're just going to have to do it as a chat, if you don't mind. So
Not
if
at all.
people
Yeah,
could
yeah.
just indicate in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Were you interested or very interested, somewhat interested, not interested, unsure? We'd love to know your interest level. So because we're going to have at lunchtime, we'll have to figure out how much nourishment to bring to the group. Okay. Oh, wow.
Wonderful. Well, that's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we promise to nourish your minds in these sessions, right, Peg?
Yes, and we'll get you time to nourish the mind, body, soul, spirit, or connection in the period. And I think the connection with others will, be able to really help support one another. And this is we wanted to, if you have questions about it, that will be the time where you want to ask us right now any kind of questions. We'd love to hear anything that we've covered a lot here to see about this, how this program is so simple. This really learned how to facilitate the simple self-care daily practices that can really help your wellness. We looked at how this can be a tool as a strategy for preventing burnout and compassion fatigue. And really the nuts and bolts of the program, as well as Michelle really highlighted the elements of it, what these elements are of the program and how to implement it. We'd love to hear any extra comments, and then we're going to sort of looking into it, look at it, and we're going to try to end with a nice practice there.
Peggy, before you finish up, it looks like
sure.
Elizabeth
yeah.
has raised her hand, so I'm going to allow
Oh,
her
good.
to
Absolutely.
ask her question. Oh,
Yep.
she's lowered her hand, so maybe she
Oh.
didn't have a question.
We're all learning the
great.
technology.
Elizabeth, if you have a question, oh, it was from earlier. Okay. Very good then. If anybody else has a question, please feel free to go ahead and ask it now.
Yeah.
Okay. And if not, Peg, I'll let you guys move on here.
So we wanted to give you just another taste of what these practices look like or feel like, I guess I should say, because I want to highlight the experiential nature of the program. The self-care program is all about practice and consideration and doing. And you notice that we really encourage the actually doing of the thing, because we don't, we often talk about these things, but we don't often get to practice them. So we'd like to finish with a pause. I invite you to sit for a moment. Pause. Notice what's around you. Check in with yourself. How do you feel now? As you proceed with your day, take some of this awareness of your breath, body, and mind with you. We hope you'll join us on July 8th so we can help you to plan to facilitate a self-care program at your work site. Next slide, please. So
Oh, well,
thank you for joining us, and we hope the pause helped. And take a pause whenever you need it, right, Peggy?
yes, thank you everybody for participating, and we really hope you'll consider joining us, and really want to really help you to really do this for yourself. And even if you just want to learn how to practice it for yourself, please just join us on on our first coaching session. And thank you so much. And the other, yeah, thanks.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Anne. You want to
Thank you.
end us off?
Yes, thank you to Dr. Zechner and Dr. Swarbrick for your presentation today. Sorry for some of the technical difficulties. We
Sure.
appreciate
Yeah.
all of you sticking with us. I will be sending out an email either later today or tomorrow at the latest with the manual, the link to our website where you can download the manual, the slides from this presentation, a link to register for the coaching sessions that Michelle and Peggy will be offering, as well as a link to our brief survey. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we wish you all a moment to pause and breathe and move and nourish and sleep. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.